While I'm all about helping people get into cybersecurity, I think there are people who shouldn't work in cybersecurity. In this video, I'll share with you 5 red flags to look out for if you're considering a career in cybersecurity. If you're new here, you can call me Unix Guy. I've been working in cybersecurity for over 20 years. When I started my career in cybersecurity, I didn't have any mentors, so I made so many mistakes. Hence why I decided to make these videos to be the mentor that I never had and to help you avoid making the same mistakes that I made. So as some of you already know, many years ago, when I was in school, I was very impressed by Kevin Mitnick. He was my role model, he was my absolute goals, and I wanted to do nothing but to be a professional hacker, a legal hacker. So I watched movies about Kevin Mitnick and I read the forums, I've even read magazines, and I did everything in my power to become a penetration tester or a professional hacker. I did the certifications, I did the courses, I practiced on my own, I practiced on labs, but lo and behold, I am not a penetration tester now. I work in cybersecurity. What I do right now is more consulting / senior management, and I was a CISO for a while. So really, I'm not a hands-on professional penetration tester at all. And the reason is I realized it really wasn't for me. So the first thing that I want you to look out for is if you're not a self-learner, if you don't like the process of self-learning, of doing certifications on your own, if you don't like the idea of studying after work, especially when you're starting out, you need to really embrace the idea of self-study. You need to look out for training courses, you need to look for certifications, you need to do videos or practice on your own lab. So this is something that's really important in cybersecurity. No one will spoon feed you the knowledge. You actually have to learn it on your own, and that can happen through certification, maybe through on-the-job experience, or in any number of ways. But if you're someone who don't like self-learning, if you don't like self-studying, so maybe cybersecurity is not really for you. Like, I have friends who are doctors and pharmacists, and they can't grasp the idea that after work we go home, we open our laptops and we study and we pay for training courses and we do certifications. For them, everything they learned was in university, and sometimes they do conferences, sometimes they do something similar to an internship where they go in another hospital and they shadow someone. But we don't really have these things in cybersecurity. They are very rare. So you need to really embrace the self-learning, and if you don't like it, then maybe cybersecurity is not for you. The second red flag to look out for is if you're someone who like recognition, if you like to get a pat on the back when you do a good job, or if you like your boss to tell you that you're doing an amazing job, or if you like your colleagues to celebrate you, cybersecurity may not be for you. And this is something I notice a lot, especially with fresh grads or people who've just finished university, and that can be a shock for them. Especially if you are an A student or an overachiever in school and university, you're probably used to your parents or to your teachers telling you how good you are and how great you are. In cybersecurity, it doesn't quite work that way, because the things that we do in cybersecurity, we tell people not to do things, or we go to other teams and we ask them to do extra work on top of their job. So they're usually not really happy with us, and sometimes when you stop big cyber attacks, yes, you may get recognition, but sometimes you may get blamed into, why did we get this attack? You are a cybersecurity professional, you're supposed to stop these kind of things. So working in cybersecurity, you need to not expect people to give you praise or to give you a pat on the back, and that can be frustrated, and I understand that. And like, as a senior manager, I always give recognition for people who work with me. When I was a junior cybersecurity professional, when I was an engineer, no one really came to me and said, hey, you're doing a good job. It was very rare. This is something that you need to expect, and if you don't like it, maybe consider working in something like software development, where if you develop a program and people use it and like it, maybe you'll get some recognition, but definitely not in cybersecurity. The third thing that you need to be wary of is if you don't enjoy working in chaotic environments. Now, this one is a little bit subtle and it takes people some time to adjust to. Let me explain. So sometimes I have junior people who've just moved to cybersecurity from maybe IT or from completely different careers, and they usually come to me and ask me, hey, what's the official procedure of responding to this incident? Or what's the process of doing a risk assessment? Or tell me the step-by-step guide into how can we do vulnerability management, or a number of things. The only problem is we don't always have a procedure or step by step to do things. Yes, sometimes for the easy things we document and we have a process, but you really need to learn to think on your own. You need to think on the spot, and you need to embrace that things are different. No two cyber attacks are the same. Like, even if I have a step-by-step guide for you on how to respond to malware, you may be surprised that guide may not work for that particular malware that you're working with, or maybe the circumstances around that incidents are different. So if you're someone who's always looking for structure, or you're always expecting things to be a certain way, you may not enjoy working in cybersecurity. It's a very chaotic type of role. Yes, you may work in a big team where, you know, you're siloed and you're doing one thing and, you know, there is repetition, but most environments are not like that. In most environments, one day you'll be working on a DLP, and the next day you'll be working on a malware, and then later on forensics. So it's constantly changing, and that can be challenging, but this is something to be expected in cybersecurity. I personally like the chaos. I enjoy the fact that I don't get to do the same thing twice. I like variety, I like change, but some people struggle with that. Like, I remember one of my colleagues, I was mentoring her, and she moved to cybersecurity from the army. So in the army, she was used to structure for everything. She was used to hierarchy, and she really struggled. She moved into cybersecurity because things were all over the place, and she was getting frustrated because we didn't have documented procedures, we didn't have things in order, and I tried to help her, but eventually she just got frustrated and left. The fourth thing that you need to watch out for, and that's probably my most favorite thing, is if you expect that cybersecurity is as exciting as it is portrayed in the movies or in TV shows, you're up for a nasty surprise. Cybersecurity is not an action-packed career. Cybersecurity is an office job. Yes, you may have moments of excitement, you may respond to some sophisticated attack, you may work with cyber criminals, but the fact is, it is not like what you see in the movies. A lot of our time is spent on spreadsheets, or spent configuring Splunk, or responding to incidents, or even in meetings. The more senior you are, like with me, most of my day sometimes gets spent on meetings, or influencing stakeholders, or responding to emails. It is not an action-packed job where you're constantly fighting criminals and you're, you know, wearing a hoodie. It is just a job. It's a cool job. It's a good job. I like it if you enjoy the day-to-day tasks, but it's definitely not what's portrayed in CSI or in Mr. Robot or in any of those movies. And you'd be surprised how many people told me that they work in cybersecurity because they were influenced by a TV show or a movie. Sometimes they don't like to admit that, but the more you know them, they'll talk about it, and they'll talk how they were surprised that it's different than this movie or different than this TV show. And look, this is the truth. The real world is nothing like the movies, and it goes without saying, but I thought it's important to know that if you have a certain idea about cybersecurity, I think it's best to talk to people who already work in the field, maybe ask to shadow them, maybe talk to them and ask them to tell you how their job is, have coffee with them, and you'd be surprised. People are usually happy to tell you what they do. But as a precaution, don't expect it to be an action-filled job. If that's what you're looking for, then probably cybersecurity is not for you. Now, the last thing to look out for, which is a red flag, is money. If you're in cybersecurity to make money, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, you may be a little bit disappointed, and I've actually seen that. You go on to search for jobs and you see some crazy salaries. I talked about this before. Some salaries are even 300k plus or 200k or whichever it is. If you're just in it for the money, you may hate the day-to-day job. Yes, you will enjoy getting a high salary, especially later on when you have more experience, when you have something to offer. You will get high salary, but the salary is just a number on your bank account. What's really important is how you spend your day-to-day, the people you work with, your boss, your environment, that day-to-day tasks. If you hate those tasks, no amount of money will make it worthwhile. Trust me, I've been there. I've seen people get high salaries, they chase titles, they chase salaries, they keep changing jobs to get a better title, better salary, but when you talk to them, they're constantly depressed, they're constantly upset, they hate their job, they are bored, they don't like it, and you just have to question, why did you choose this career? Is it the fancy title? Is it the fancy salary? That's not enough. And once you get the fancy title and you get the fancy salary, you will know that it's not what it's cracked out to be. It gets old really quickly if you hate the job. So make sure that it's something you enjoy, it's something you're a little bit passionate about. You don't have to be crazy about the job. You don't have to spend every waking moment thinking of work. You don't have to be in love with cybersecurity, but at least don't hate the job. Don't dread your day-to-day work. If you find it boring, maybe look for something you're interested in, and trust me, money will follow. If you love programming, for example, you can be a software developer, and then later on you can make a lot of money if you're good. Or maybe you can work in the medical field, or you can work in law enforcement. There's so many things to do. You don't have to work in cybersecurity just because the titles and salaries are good or there is high demand. Choose something that you're genuinely interested in. doing. Now, if you still think that cybersecurity is a career for you, and it is an awesome career, I personally love it, I enjoy it, and I get to work with interesting people. I made this video where I talk about how to get into cybersecurity in a step-by-step manner. I also talked about whether you need a degree or certifications or experience or a mix of both. I highly recommend you watch this video.